All right, all right, all right. It seems like we are a live team. Let's give a few seconds for people in the audience to start joining. Today is going to be a very interesting episode. If you in the audience, you are a founder looking to grow sales, this episode is for you. We're going to be talking about the mistakes founders make when selecting the right sales personnel, also some best practices, and maybe sprinkle some best practices at the end around what to do with automations, AI, and how to pick the right talent. But let's not spill the whole beans. In the meantime, John, Maya, how you guys doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having us on.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome, awesome. This is gonna be an interesting show, Maya. You're on the other side of the world right now, right?
Yeah, I'm actually in Tel Aviv, Israel.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. Awesome. What time is it for you right now?
It's 5 p.m.
5 p.m. All right, we're gonna give 3 more minutes. You're wrapping up your day. Those on the western side are probably starting up their day. So that's gonna be interesting. Let's give the audience a few more seconds. If you are joining in, if you're tuning in, please write in the chat where you are from. We want to see the type of mix that we have in the audience. Now, we had a third panelist that won't be able to attend today, but between Maja and John, I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to cover some great ground, mostly because you guys work with clientele on different parts of the world, not exclusively US or Latam or Europe. So that's going to give us an interesting mix when it comes to the answers. All right. If anyone can see us on LinkedIn, please send us some signals, some emojis, some reactions or comments. Now, another interesting topic that we have coming up today is that I want to share is an update that I just learned a few minutes ago. Maja is rebranding Growth Accelerator, her company, how she helps business founders grow sales, outsource sales, and get the right expertise to grow their revenue and their campaigns. Maja is going through a rebrand. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about Sales 8 and the recent rebrand you guys are going through.
Sure. So we started off 2.5, 3 years as growth engine. And that was, we were 3 people. So we were very small. We've grown to 130 people worldwide and servicing multiple clients. And that required us changing our image externally a little bit so that people actually know what we're about, and we're portraying our services. And also we've become a group of companies because we have 2 SaaS solutions as well. So we kind of thought of names, and I'm a big fan of the number 8 personally. It means it symbolizes money in numerology, and all the founders in the company were born on the day of the 8th. So we thought, let's become Sales 8.
That's fantastic. What are the odds? So, everyone on the day 8. All right. Well, as we approach 9:05 here in Colombia time, let's go ahead and get started. And now, Maja, that you've mentioned a little bit about the background between sales, behind Sales 8, how you started with 3 employees and grew to over 130 employees. Let's go ahead and start with your intro, Maya. Tell the audience a little bit more about Sales 8 and who you are, what type of background you have, and then we'll continue with John.
Sure, fabulous. So pleasure to meet everyone. I'm the CEO of a company called Sales 8, and we help mostly B2B companies scale through outbound motion across the world, across all channels, being cold calls, emails, LinkedIn. We have BDRs located in the US, UK, Germany, Australia, South Africa, Philippines, Colombia. So we do have a lot of knowledge around different regions and outbound motions, as well as an AI team that helps with all the different tools that we're also going to touch on today, and seeing how you can optimize processes for better data, score data, having your reps in front of better tools. And we work with big companies such as Atera, Connecting, but also smaller startups around the world, really helping them grow through outbound motions and localized experiences on them. I'm happy to be here today, so thank you for having me.
Amazing. It's a pleasure to have you here on the show, Maja. Thank you for gracing us with your time, helping big and small clients all over the globe. You're going to definitely bring some interesting perspectives. And now, John, tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you still in Argentina? Tell us a little bit about Level Up Leads, the background, where you're currently at.
Yeah, sure. No, I'm actually in Barcelona, Spain. So I'm originally from California and I'm living here. Now, I started Level Up Leads about 4.5 years ago. We're also a B2B SDR agency working primarily with tech companies, but really we can service any B2B company. We have about 60 people working remotely, typically in the US time zone, and helping companies set up new appointments, prospecting, and then the main channels we work are email, LinkedIn, and we're pretty heavy on the phones.
Amazing. Thank you for that intro, both of you. So Level Up Leads, 4 years in the business. And that has given both of you the ability to work with multiple clients, multiple founders. You mentioned, John, for instance, hey, we are ideally for tech companies, but we have worked with companies outside of that, let's say, industry or vertical. And this has given both of you unique perspectives onto what's working and what's not only on one specific niche with one specific size of company and targeting just one specific persona. You guys have handled sales for a few different range of corporations. So I want to extract some value for people in the audience about your own experience. Let's start with the first question, which is going to be the main mistake. What are the skills that you look for the most when you're hiring talent to fill the seats of your outbound programs? What are those skills that, if you can think of maybe the top 3 and rank them in order, what are those skills and why? Let's go ahead, Maya. It started with you.
Sure. So, my top 3 skills, and that's me taking aside completely, people that have experience, which is important, but there's actual qualities that I look for people when we hire them. One being their ability to critically think, to do critical thinking. And the reason that's a really top quality that we're looking candidates is because we found out that SDRs that have their ability to be a little bit, to use a little bit of analysis in terms of who they're speaking to over the phone and be able to adapt, actually, the SDRs that end up being more successful, even if on paper they have slightly less experience than someone that has been doing cold calls or email campaigns for years. So that is something that we pay a lot of emphasis on. And some of our junior BDRs that have come and had good analytical skills have actually become top BDRs and in a matter of months. So that's something that we really look for. The second thing is definitely grit. So we're looking for people that can be motivated when it's tough, because we are in sales, and not only we're in sales, we're doing outbound, which in my opinion is the hardest work in the world, because it means that you are facing rejections out. And if that person doesn't have the ability to handle that, they'll be out the door leaving guns on their shirt very quickly. So that's the second trait that we look for. Um, the third trait is definitely communication skills. So how well they can speak around value proposition, how well they can forge a conversation, how friendly they can sound, how their written communication is. So how they can actually use language to spark interest, both in writing and in calling, is something that we pay a lot of attention to, because essentially perception is reality. So how the person actually comes across and communicates is what the person is on the other side is going to think of the company that this SDR is representing. So that is super important as well. So I guess these are not so much skills, but qualities. If I was to actually take these down to also 3 skills, so of course we look for people that naturally have phone sales experience. We're also looking for people that have technical background where possible. It can add a lot when we're working with the B2B tech space, which we are. And then we also look for people that have knack for using AI technologies, because at the end of the day, right now, the world is changing. AI is not going to replace humans, but it's going to replace humans that don't use AI with humans that do use AI. So we
Yeah.
are looking to see what skill set and what AI tools they have worked with in the market.
This is very interesting. You mentioned a few set of soft skills, type of like, as you mentioned, maybe more like traits, but also some specific skills. And there's something to unpack a little bit also here. You mentioned critical thinking, definitely analyzing, trying to find different angles of attack. This combined with communication, which you mentioned third, also allows them to craft good value props to tailor the conversation, because sales is not just repeating a script like a robot, because then just put a robot on auto dial to do that. Sales is about understanding the client situation and adapting your speech or how your product or service can solve their pain points. So I think that's interesting, but I want to peel one layer of the onion, which is, it seems, and please confirm, Maja, that you gave me skills and traits that are mostly beneficial for a cold caller, right? Or would you say this is also the same set of skills you look for in someone that's going to primarily going to be working on email or chat? Or would you say this is exclusive to phone? Help me understand more of that, please.
So you're absolutely right. The way we do that is we actually divide the people that are doing phone work to the people that are doing the go to market engineering work. And that has come through from our understanding that someone that can be a great communicator and a great cold caller might not have the attention to detail or the technical background that someone that is really good with revenue operations or with running campaigns over LinkedIn or emails or thinking about crafting written messages as much. And most of them, I would say, even hate it. Like they hate doing, data driven work and groundwork around, scraping LinkedIn and uploading it to an email cadence, etc. For them, that
Right.
just slows them down. So what we have is we actually have a team doing this, and then the rest of the BDR is there focused on cold calls. And also we find that with the magics of AI, that actually makes things better, because the reality is that AI can do a great job today in terms of finding good contacts, scoring them, prioritizing them, enriching contacts from different data sources to have some intent. And that is a very technical job that is very different to what a BDR is doing. That being said, if you have people that do that, and then they feed the BDRs with good data that is scored, intent based, key messaging even to those personas, a BDR that is a great caller and communicator can actually optimize their time to get a lot more meetings and conversations and results done.
Amazing. And this has been definitely a trend recently. You mentioned AI and how that's changing every job, every industry. It's definitely happening in sales. You mentioned how, hey, maybe we're looking for someone with critical thinking and good communication skills so they can feel comfortable when doing a cold outreach. But also, you did mention the other skills of the, maybe, hey, maybe I don't like cold calling too much. I don't like to be on the front line too much, but I'm very savvy as to what are the sequences to orchestrate a go-to-market campaign. What are the tools, how they need to be set up, setting up the right template with the right personalization tokens. And they like to tinker. They like to be in the systems, updating, making sure that everything, the campaign, the leads are clean, waterfall enrichment, and all that jazz. Well, that's a very technical profile that may not be still analytical, but may not be the most fluent on the line. So I like that you gave that perspective that if you're a founder building a sales team, ideally first get the communicator as well, and someone has to do the setup. That may be you as a leader, but eventually as your team continues to grow in today's day and age, it's very important to have someone overlooking the tech stack, the setup of the campaign, that the triggers are connected correctly, and that the leads are being routed appropriately to each of the account executives, that they have the skills to communicate. So that was a very interesting differentiation between two roles that you may have or may be looking to hire if you want to grow outbound. Now, let's turn it over to you, John. when it comes to the skills that you look for the most, when it comes to the reps, tell us what those skills are. And if you want to double click now that we open that box, what would those skills be for? A frontline cold caller, an orchestrator, go to market type of sales engineer, more like an account executive? Just let us know what you think.
Yeah. So for the answers I'm going to give are mainly around cold calling. So keep that in mind. I think you could probably my answers may differ a little bit if they're not on the phones. But for
Right.
cold calling, we've made some mistakes over the years, and over time you realize mostly who fits the criteria that will likely last a long time. And luckily, we have a lot of our SDRs that have been with us for 2 to 3 years. The first thing that stands out is grit. Like, you want someone hungry. Oftentimes, someone that comes with a sports background, they're competitive. You can create some internal friendly competitiveness within the team. And so like that typically gets people going. You want people hungry. Cold calling is not easy. So you have to have some type of drive. Oftentimes it's money, you have family, things like that. But we found people that have a sports background tends to help. Some other things, you have to be coachable. You have to be a little careful. You hire someone with experience, they need to be coached. Typically, what they've learned in the past doesn't always apply. And the people that think they kind of have know-it-alls or are know-it-alls sometimes can be tough, right? Because in our space, we're lead gen companies and we have clients. So we need to serve those clients. They may have specific requirements. And if the SDRs aren't coachable, then that becomes a problem over time if we can't do what our clients are asking. Detail oriented is another one. You have to be good on the phones, of course, but if you can't follow simple SOPs, document things, simple, maybe it's uploaded and recording, marking things in a CRM, like oftentimes those things can go overlooked. So we look for people that are detail oriented and can follow basic processes. And the last one is having good business acumen. If some products that we work with, they're very technical, and we need to be able to have SDRs that can pick up on those. You don't need to be an expert, but you need to have some basic knowledge of, okay, I can, after reading the website or some marketing material, like I can understand the value prop. I can understand what they're doing. If someone's not that technical, just doesn't have much business experience, sometimes it's harder, or they're harder to place. You need to put them on products that is much more like of a simple sell. Maybe someone that does accounting. That's not too technical, right? Pretty simple. So those are the main things that stand out. Yeah.
Right. All right, that makes sense. There's beautiful answers because I want to unpack a few things. You did mention grit, which is something that Maya said as well. Someone with thick skin, and that's super important in sales. I've seen a lot of candidates that come from a customer support background. They love helping people. They have super well intentions, but they get on the phone. First person that yells at them, shuts the phone, whatever it is, they crumble. They cannot hold up to that pressure. So that's definitely something that needs to be developed in. I love that you gave an example of how to see if someone already has a little bit of that, which is, hey, sports background. Someone in sports that likes to be competitive, that likes to win. Sales is about leaderboard. Sales is about who's getting the largest deal. There's definitely a ton of competition in this space. So fostering, and you did mention something about that, John, fostering healthy competition among your team, where yes, they want to thrive to be number one, but they also want to share some secrets, some best practices with their peers, so that as a company we all grow. But yeah, they want to be number one. They want to get the credit for being the ones that figured out a better objection handling that later get used by the rest of the team. So I love that about the grit, the competitiveness. Definitely there's a little bit of hunger and ego that plays here, but in a healthy way, right? Now, you mentioned something important about coachability. CloudTask, for many years, used to be a sales agency as well, training. We got up to like 300 reps at some point, and we did notice coachability as being very important, and it's almost tied with the one that you said. when someone has a lot of experience, there's a saying there, like old parrot cannot learn new tricks, right? Or maybe is it an old dog? The idea is that you want someone fresh, maybe not fully green, because you mentioned also the business acumen, and I've always said that that's one of the main challenges of a BDR or an SDR or a sales rep. They have to sell things that they've never used to people whose jobs they've never had. How can I convince an astronaut that this fabric is better for their suit if I have no clue what it means to be an astronaut, right? Do I need friction? Do I need speed, lightweightness? I don't know, right? But that's a challenge that SDRs have always had. Some people say, should we put the green people in as SDRs? Maybe it's better to put more tenure ones, but you definitely hit the nail in the head. Um, John, when you said ideally have some background experience, some business acumen that you can kind of like extrapolate into your talk tracks and whatnot, and it leads you to have faster understanding of a prospect situation for you to tailor the conversation, and that combined with coachability, it's a must. And lastly, detail oriented. And I think this kind of ties with what Maja said. Someone technical is definitely someone very detail oriented, setting up the sequences, how many touches, how many space in between those touches, 1 day, 2 day, when they open, what are the triggers? That requires someone very detailed oriented. It seems like today is not just like, hey, I'm so good at talking to people. I log into the phone, I do my magic, and I'm off. That's really not going to help a company transcend and have sustainable growth in sales. We need a little bit more beyond that. Yes, someone that is very well spoken, very versatile, that can adapt to the situation very quickly, but also can leave a like a crumb trail in the CRM. Make sure that they have all the notes correctly, because a lot of times it's not a single rep selling. There may be a larger team, and maybe if one sales rep goes on vacation, how are the other ones going to pick it up where he left off? You need to have those details. You need to not only work individually but work in a team. So you guys have given me some very interesting answers so far. Following SOPs, documenting. We've spoken about what it means to grow, how founders, Outbound is back, how founders are building sales teams. If they're building sales teams, they're looking to grow. And if they're looking to grow, they need to have standard operational procedures, like John said. They need to be detail oriented. They need to have that thick skin. So that's been very interesting. Now, you did mention something about some mistakes that you've made in the past, John. And I want the next question to go first with Maya. What is the biggest mistake founders make when hiring sales representative? We already spoke about what to look for. What would you say are some red flags that if you spot, be careful, don't do that, or that you have seen people make that mistake and now they became your clients and you have helped them overcome that maybe paradigm or misconception? And Maya, let us know what you think here.
Sure. So I think one of the biggest mistakes I see that is quite repetitive is that founders look at CVs too much. They think, oh, that person has the exact experience in my industry. They've done something, very similar. If you're founder hiring your SDR, then typically you're a smaller company, meaning you don't have a lot of hands, and you're looking for someone to generate quite substantial results with limited budget. And so they think, oh, that person has the experience, they have the right profile, they seem like they know my industry, but they fail to look at the soft skills needed for an SDR to be successful. So going back to analytical thinking, how would they handle this? Or, how much grit do they actually have? Founders actually look for grit, but they don't look at soft skills. Would that person be able to do this over the phone? Would that person actually be able to carry out what a good SDR needs to carry out in order to generate results? And a couple of times we've had clients where we told them, oh, you should hire this person for your account. And they came back and said, no, we want to meet a couple more BDRs. And then they chose someone else. And it didn't go the way they wanted it to go. And then we gave them one of the reps that we had them meet earlier. And all of a sudden that works for them because they fail to look at the overall of what that person brings to the table. Like sometimes they have concerns if that person was then an AE after they were a BDR and now they're coming in as a BDR again. Sometimes they have concerns about the resume not being written the best possible way, which again, with some candidates, it does say a lot. With some candidates, it doesn't. For example,
Right.
if you're hiring in the US or the UK, yeah, people have more of that acumen of having a really good CV and they get taught that, and it's kind of normal way of doing business. Whereas if you're hiring in offshore markets like Latam, South Africa, and Philippines, that we also have great BDR out of, these people don't have as much of as acumen to bring out necessarily the best template of a CV over. And that by itself can just mean that the client will not want to meet them or interview them. And that could be a perfect BDR for them. So it's just overthinking a little bit of the previous experience instead of saying how the person actually carries something. How do they actually do a cold call? How do they actually, like, how would they go about doing outbound motion, and looking too much around experience, knowledge, etc., where some of those things can be grasped very easily for the right type of soft qualities person, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, Maya. A follow-up question for you. Would you ever hire a sales rep without a role play?
No,
A
even
big
if
no, of course.
even if I hire them and they have no experience and I know that they're going to be work in progress, I still want to see what they come up with in real time, because that will show me how well they improvise, if they need to improvise as well. So there's all sorts of qualities and ways of doing things that we try to pick up on when we interview.
Fantastic. Now, what about you, John? What do you think is the biggest mistake founders are making when hiring?
I think the biggest mistake that founders are making is they think when they hire an SDR that they're going to be able to figure it out on their own.
Mhm.
And so what really needs to happen is there needs to be some type of process in place once they come into the organization to follow, or some type of base. And so what happens is oftentimes founders think, okay, I need sales, I'll hire an SDR to come start drumming up some new business. But oftentimes SDRs, they don't have too much experience, and it ends up being a failure when you leave, like the guardrails are taken off and SDRs are off on their own and doing anything they want with no real process to follow. It ends up biting the founder in the butt because they're not going to get the results that they were hoping for. So
It's
I
interesting.
always, oh, sorry, go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's interesting that you mentioned this about the preparation that you're gonna give that employee once you bring them on board. Because in the past, companies used to get along, like they could get by without having a dedicated agenda because everyone was in the office, and maybe by being there, surrounded by everyone else, the rep would absorb some of those things. And as you mentioned, it's a younger rep. It's not someone that has 5 years of experience in the workplace and it's now bring. No, it's greener rep. And today, now that more companies are working remote, you bring on that rep without any business acumen. How is he going to learn if you don't have an agenda? So I do love that answer. Was there something else you wanted to share, John?
Yeah, I'd say, and if you're a founder listening, if it's okay to hire somebody without that process, but then don't expect results, expect discovery, expect them to come back with learnings. You may not get the results that you're hoping for. I have a few others. That was the most important one.
Right?
I definitely think, as Maya mentioned, the mock calls are huge. It's something we used to not do, and then we implemented and instantly started weeding out who to hire and who not to hire. So that one's huge.
Yeah.
Ongoing coaching is a big one. So as someone gets started, it's not like, think of like a sports athlete, like a Steph Curry or maybe a tennis player. They have coaches. They're the best in the world, but they practice every day. And so if you're not giving the SDR ongoing coaching, they're going to stall. They're not going to be progressing. So I think that's one thing that is often overlooked. And then another one would be just general tools. Oftentimes SDRs aren't equipped with the tools to do the job. So that could be the most common one, is typically nothing to go find the data, no contact data tool. So you can't expect them to go out and make calls when they don't have the phone numbers. So that's the common mistake I see.
And it's not going to be the SDR's fault.
Yeah. So
I like that.
That one pops up.
I like that. So all of us agree on mock-up calls or role plays that can tell you a ton more than any CV could. On paper, they may look great. 30 seconds into a role play, you can already identify, yeah, he's not going to cut it. So I like those examples. Or she, right? Could be a guy, could be a girl. Ongoing coaching, definitely. Either you said it, I like something you said. It's okay if you didn't have the plan to upskill that person in the first place, but definitely have something in place as that person joins, or adjust your expectations. Don't expect them to crush it. Expect them to start discovering things and bring you revelations for you to continue to align them. Okay, and definitely the tools. Yes, it's so important. Oftentimes we think so much of the human, and we bring an A-star player and we're like, all right, we don't have a CRM. We use a spreadsheets, and you got to call from your phone, buddy. Like, what are my systems? We know that there's so many tech these days. That's amazing. We said it at the beginning of the call. AI savvy people, or at least prone to, right? Tech savvy people, they're going to have a better opportunity into entering this new age of AI in machines. As Maya said, I may disagree. Maybe at some point AI will replace us, but I definitely see that at least for the next half a decade, is going to be humans using AI that's going to be replacing the other humans that don't use AI, which leads me to my last question, team. We've spoken about AI. We've spoken about tech. John, you mentioned how it's important to equip them with tools. How does AI and all these new developments change or modify your plans for hiring SDRs? Do you provide them tools? Do you do role play? Is there a new technology that you use to create automatic assessments? Walk us through that.
Sure. So there's different tools. Okay, the way we approach this is that in terms of the skill set and qualities, we still look for similar things. That being said, even with cold callers, even if they're not going to be executing the revenue operations side, we want them to at least have familiarity. And I guess I would not even call it a tech skill, but an ability to adapt, because AI is changing the way business is going to run. So, for example, a BDR that can go into ChatGPT and write a prompt that is going to give them some insights about a client or a prospect that they were about to call is going to do better than a BDR that doesn't have this knack in 2025. So we need to have some sort of, I guess, technical knack and ability to use tools is more prevalent in what we're looking for as well. So we're not looking for just people that can talk on the phones, but we are looking for people that can use information of tech stack, will not necessarily be so put off if we ask them to log into a platform and get some information, and they understand a little bit how AI works in terms of its ability to bring value. Again, they don't have to be experts, but we are looking for that knack more than we did like a year or two ago. So it's definitely changed the plans in that sense. We're still looking for different skill set where they're going into what we call more of the revenue operations. So they're in the go-to-market engineering team that does super complex stuff with AI, like client enrichments and scoring and personalized emails on LinkedIn and creating all of those data sets, which is very technical. So for these guys, we're definitely looking to see, what tools they've worked with, what's their experience, how far they've gone with those tools, etc., and so that it actually aligns with the complexity of campaigns that we run on those channels. For the cold callers, we are just looking for a knack to use AI tools. For example, a cold caller can even take, the transcript from Orem or another dialect. Orem is a dialect for whoever doesn't know what Orem is. So just to take a transcript from their dialect to analyze, what was the point in the conversation that, got more interest from the client, etc. So there's all sorts of things that you can do with even simple AI tools that we are looking for people to have, basic knowledge for.
I like that. Maya, sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, we consider this like having a knack for technology, like being tech savvy, but sometimes it's just basically being curious, because who taught us to use TikTok? Who taught you to use Facebook? Who taught you to create an Instagram account? A lot of these technologies that we have these days, not like it's rocket science, super crazy. No, like they have training programs, they have onboarding programs. It's not rocket science. So being curious and at least fiddling with the tools that you have, going to check the help docs really goes a long way. Would you agree, Maya?
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, it's more of a trait than a skill, I think, of adaptation, of kind of saying, okay, I see that the world is going this way. Let me open up ChatGPT and try a couple of things.
Exactly.
Let's open up this and let's see this tool that someone's mentioned on LinkedIn, or join a webinar for someone that say they use something that helps them book more meetings, etc.
Exactly, because you may have learned a tool a year ago, but that tool keeps changing. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. HubSpot a year ago didn't have all the features that it has today. So you got to keep learning. Now, what about you, John? What do you think? How do you think AI changes or modifies the hiring plans for cold calling and SDRs?
Yeah, I agree with everything Maya's saying. We're a little bit different in the sense of we have people that are in charge of automations or AI. What we really focus on is we want the SDRs to be good on the phones.
Mm-hmm.
That's where what happens in a lot of companies that have internal SDRs is they get caught up doing a bunch of things in the CRM and writing prompts and personalizing emails, and then the day goes by, maybe they've had some internal meetings and they've only made 30 calls for the day, right? So what we try to focus on is, I would look at everything that we've been talking about and what Maya's saying as a plus. It's great if they have that curiosity and can maybe incorporate AI into maybe summaries of their day of calls, certain things like that. But really, what I want them to do is to be good on the phones. There's other people that are better at just automations and AI that we have in-house, or you can hire on a fractional basis to really own that. I don't really want the SDRs. Again, it may depend a little bit on how your organization is set up. So take this all with a grain of salt. But the way we do it is, we want the SDRs to be focused on the phones, not so much on the back end. So
that makes sense. As a founder listening in, there may be a stage where I may need the people to be as tech savvy and as moldable and as like wear multiple hats, because I'm small and I'm starting to grow. And as I continue to grow, then having expertise into each group. I like what you're saying, John. Hey, the guys that set up and ensure that all your meetings transcripts get automatically transcribed and saved in the CRM is a different team than the one that's going to be doing the call. That guy, I just want him back to back speaking with clients. That makes a ton of sense. And that leads me to my last question, team. Do you hire staff to run automations, or do you train existing staff? I guess maybe the answer is not black and white. Maybe it's at some point we start to make the transitions. What do you think, Maya?
So we did a bit of both. We did hire externally for this, and then we also used people that had knowledge of previous automations and systems, and got them trained on new AI tools and had them add them to their skill set. Because essentially, someone that used to be able to do revenue operations in HubSpot is going to be able to do automations with AI tools. They just need to learn the workflows. At the end of the day, there's not a lot of people that have more than 1 or 1.5 years experience, of using a lot of AI tools that exist in the market, because most of them are very new. So a lot of that needs to be learned by people that have the technological knack, or the previous technological way of doing things, which is previously it was email campaigns and revenue operations on CRMs. Now it goes online with being what's called go-to-market engineer, which is essentially people using a whole lot of AI tools to do outreach. And again, I think I'm coming back to this with what we said earlier, that essentially we don't necessarily want those people to be SDRs. Okay, so it's okay to have them separate and to have them just trained up on more tools, as opposed to trying to make an SDR a revenue operations person.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, yeah, which rarely exists. That person that is a jack of all trades, there's a handful of people in the world that are like that. Most of them are, if they're SDRs, they're not going to be an SDR for the rest of their life. They're going to move on and do bigger and better things. And they don't exist very much.
That makes sense. Awesome. What do you think, John?
Yeah, we used a few outsourced agencies that specialize in automations, and then over time we ended up bringing it in-house. So between my ops person and then we hired an in-house developer, they seem to have 99% of the things covered that we need. So yeah.
Amazing.
It's a bit of a progress. Sorry.
You have tried. It's almost like an accordion, right? You flex, maybe you bring in some external expertise, see what's out there in the latest and greatest tools. You validate what's really working or not, and if it's working, you bring it in-house and continue to develop that knowledge and continue to use that automation or that AI or that new tool. Awesome. All great answers around. I have one question, one comment that came in through the Q&A as we wrap up this amazing episode. Is from Amir Ryder. He's saying, hey, where are meetings coming from today? Are they coming from phone or are they coming from email? What have you guys seen as the main channel? And is it really that channel the one that's converting, or is it because you do an orchestration of omni-channel where you happen to see the conversion there, but it was a result of everything else? Maya.
I think with the company, we see most of our meetings come from the phones. We are also very phone heavy. That being said, there are industries where email can work tremendously well. There are certain companies that target SMBs of certain segments that can be quite responsive on emails. For certain segments and titles, LinkedIn can work really well. But we definitely see phone as being a consistent channel of meetings. I'll say across clients, across even territories and countries, we see it as the number one channel.
Fantastic. Okay, what about you, John? What have you seen in case of communication channels?
Same thing. I'll echo what Maya said. Yeah, the phones are king right now. I'd say across the board, regardless of company size, seniority, industry, probably 75% of the meetings are coming from the phones. And then the other remaining 25% would be a combination of emails and LinkedIn outreach.
Amazing. Well, there you have it, team. I would say the verdict for this episode is, number one, cold calling is not dead. Yes, everyone loves to talk about that every time. There's always a post. Is it dead? Is it not? It's definitely not. These are two agencies that use omni-channel approaches, and they both have said that cold calling tends to be the best performing channel because when you're actually able to have a conversation, you can get a lot covered in a phone call versus a long email thread. Maya, John, it's been a pleasure to have you on this show. If you're in the audience, you're a founder, you're looking to set up a team, you can find great talent in the Cloutos Marketplace. But if you want a company to manage that for you, you could also find Sales 8 and go level up leads in the Cloutos Marketplace. Just head over, search for them, and you'll be able to meet both with Maya's team, John's team, or our team if you're looking to directly hire remote candidates. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and I hope to catch you in a future episode. Maya, John, thank you so much for participating.
Thanks for having us.